Hey guys, it's Thomas here with Technovision, and welcome to the next episode of our Minecraft modding tutorial series for 1.15. In this episode, we're going to be creating some custom basic tools, and we can just get right into it. So every tool in Minecraft has what is called an item tier or an item tier, which is essentially a material tier that has basic values like a harvest level, the maximum amount of uses, an efficiency, speed, base attack damages, enchantability. All those different attributes are all put into an item tier, and that is shared across all items. Like all iron items have an iron item tier. So we're going to create a basic one of those for ourselves, a custom one first, and then we're going to make our tools. So in order to make that item tier, we want to go to our package explorer, right click on tutorial or whatever you named your mod here, your mod folder, package, and we want to name this tools. And this will house more stuff later, but for now, we're just gonna right click, new, Java class. And we wanna make sure this is an enum, not a Java class. So once you have enum selected, name this mod item tier. You can also replace mod with the name of your mod, like tutorial, although it doesn't really matter what you name it. And add that to a repository. Okay, so the first thing we wanna do, make sure this implements item tier. And that is going to give us all of the methods, so we can import class and hover over this, implement methods, and select all of them and hit OK. So this is going to let us get all these basic values that I was talking about earlier. So we need to make a couple enums, and you can make multiple over time, but I'm just going to show you how to make one just so you know the process. So first thing you want to type up here, right in front of this semicolon, or I guess we can get rid of this for now, just so it's easier to understand. So first, you want to type the name of your enum. So this material that we're going to make, this material tier, is going to be the Ruby tier. It's basically going to include everything that all Ruby tools are going to have. So I'm going to name it Ruby in all capitals, add some parentheses here, and it's going to pass in a few values. So the first value is going to be the harvest level. So the harvest level is essentially the level at which a tool needs to be to harvest a specific ore. So for example, diamond tools are able to mine diamonds, but if you were to try and mine a diamond ore with, say, a wooden tool, it doesn't have a high enough harvest level to mine those blocks. Same sort of idea. So if you go to the website in the description here, you will see a MC Creator wiki. And I know we're not using MC Creator, but this information here is really useful because it's all in one place. And we can go to harvest level here, and you can see these are the vanilla harvest levels. So 0 is wood, 1 is stone, and so on. So I want my Ruby tools to act like diamond in terms of harvest level. So we're gonna put 3, as you can see there. All right, so 3 is our harvest level. Now next we wanna put in the maximum amount of uses that a tool has. So we can also go back to this link here and see that for vanilla items, where is it? Enchantability, number of uses, here we go. So diamond tools have 1,561 uses. That means after you use the tool 1,561 times, the tool will break just because of durability. So I want mine to be in between iron and diamond, as you can see here. So I'm gonna make mine 800. So 800. So that means that all Ruby tools will have about 800 uses in them. Now the next thing we're going to pass in is the efficiency. This is how fast a tool mines a block. So again, go to that link in the description, and we can see the vanilla and efficiency values here. Iron is about 6 and diamond is 8. So if we want to be in between those two, I would put mine as 7. And I think it has to be a float value, so put 7.0f. So next we have to put the attack damage. Now this is really important. This is the base attack damage. So pretty much every tool that has this item tier is going to have this as a base damage. And then any damage values you add on top of this, which you'll see later on in a sec, is going to be added on top. So to avoid confusion, I would say the best thing is probably to set it as 0, but it really depends on if you're going to have multiple item tiers here. So just to sort of display this feature, I'm going to set this as 3.0f, just so you guys can see what this does. So that means that all Ruby tools are going to have at least minimum 3 base damage. And then I believe the second to last thing is enchantability. So if you don't know what enchantability is, these are the vanilla values right here. Essentially in Minecraft, different tiers of tools like iron and gold and diamond all have different abilities to get high level enchants. So you can see here that gold has 22, whereas diamond has about 10. And that means that gold has a much higher chance to get good, valuable enchants than say something like diamond or stone. So I'm gonna put mine as a little bit higher than diamond. So diamond is 10, so I'm gonna put 12. And that means that we're gonna get some pretty good enchants, hopefully, if we were to put it in an enchantment table. Now this last value, we can't actually pass in just yet because we don't have the item. We'll do it in a second, but just know that this is the repair material. And we will just put this note here just so we know to come back in a second. It will give you an error while we wait, but this is gonna be the material that you use to repair these items in an anvil pretty much. So before we come back to this repair material, we need to make some data members and a constructor so we can actually pass all these things in. So let's first make a private final int harvest level. And we pretty much just need to do this with all of the values. So next one would be a private final int max uses, then a private final float, this time efficiency, private final float attack damage. Next one would be enchantability. So private final int enchantability. Oh, forgot a semicolon there. Private final, and then the last one is a supplier actually for the repair material. So we need a supplier parameterized around ingredient, and we're just gonna name this repair material. All right, and make sure you import supplier as well from java.util.function. That's very important. All right, so inside of, or the reason we're making these final rather is because we don't really want anyone to change them out from outside the class. There's really no reason to, but we do need to make a constructor. So mod item tier, and we need to pass in all of these. So int harvest level, comma, int max uses, comma, int efficiency, comma, oh, sorry, I believe that's float efficiency, float attack damage, int enchantability, and then supplier, ingredients, repair material. And then add some curly braces. And inside of here, last thing we have to really push through is we need to assign the variables. So this dot harvest level is equal to harvest level. And we're just gonna be doing this pretty much for all of them. So this dot max uses is equal to max uses. This dot efficiency is equal to efficiency. This dot attack damage is equal to attack damage. This dot enchantability, oh, enchantability, there we go. I knew something was off there, is equal to enchantability. And then last one is gonna be repair, this dot repair material is equal to repair material. Okay, so we've assigned all the variables. We need to make sure that we have a semicolon on the end of this enum here. And last thing we need to do pretty much before we get to repair material is we need to set up all of these, what are they called, methods. So first, our get max uses is just gonna return what you would assume, the max uses. Then efficiency is gonna return efficiency. Attack damage is gonna return attack damage. Harvest level, and so on. Enchantability. And for the get repair material, it's gonna be the repairMaterial.get, so that we get the actual ingredient. We can come up here and file, save all. Now to get this repair material, we actually need to create the item first, which sounds a little weird because we're actually using this class to create an item that we use to create this class. I know, super weird, but just follow along and I promise it'll make a little bit more sense. So go to your registry handler class, and we're gonna create a new section down here called // tools. And this is gonna hold all of our tools. They are just items, but they are gonna use a different class than just item. So we're gonna create our first tool, which is a sword, and we're gonna do public static final registry objects. And this is gonna be parameterized around sword item because it is a sword item. And the name is going to be Ruby_sword, as you would expect. And this is going to equal items.register. Now we're going to pass in the name first, so Ruby_sword. Pretty much same thing we're used to, comma, except this time, instead of just passing in a base class, we're going to actually make the item right in this class. So it's going to be a lambda statement, so 2 parentheses, a dash, and an arrow, and a curly brace, or I guess we don't need a curly brace this time because we're just creating a new sword item. So bring this parenthesis down to the second line because it is going to be a lot of code and it's going to go off screen if you don't. So we're going to create a new, let me get rid of this thing. There we go. New sword item. And this is going to pass in, I think it's 4 different values or 3 values and then just the properties. So first thing we need to pass into the sword item is the actual tier. This is what we just made in our mod item tier. So mod item tier dot Ruby. You can see it right there, .ruby. Comma, and then next we need to pass in is the damage. So this is how much damage the sword is gonna do to a mob or a player. Now remember, if we go to our mod item tier here, we have this attack damage, right? This is the base attack damage. So any damage you add here, any value is gonna be added on top of this base damage. So because this is 3, if we were to put, for example, 2 for this value, you can see it pops up attack damage in. What this means is it's going to be adding 2 to the base damage here of 3 for a total damage amount of 6. Now you might think, well, 2 plus 3 is 5. Yes, that's true, but all items have a base attack damage of 1. I know this is like really crazy to follow, but just think of it like this. So base items have an attack damage of 1 plus the base damage, which is equal to, in this case, 3, plus the added damage, which in our case is 2. That's what we're setting here. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. The 1 is automatic by vanilla Minecraft. This 3 here is what we set here as a base attack damage, and you can set that to whatever you'd like. And the added damage is what we're setting over here in our registry handler class with the item. So I'll just delete this, but hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. So setting this to 2 will actually cause this sword to do 6 damage every time it hits, which I believe is only about 3 hearts in Minecraft because you divide it by 2. Now the next value is going to be the attack speed. This is also honestly just as confusing, and I really don't know why it's this way, but all items in Minecraft, for whatever reason, start with a base attack value of 4. And this is like pre 1.8 sort of combat, so there will be no cooldown. If that's what you want, then you can just leave this as 0.0f. But in my case, I do want a cooldown because I want the vanilla cooldown mechanics for 1.15. If you don't know what I'm talking about how when you hit something with a sword, it takes a second for it to sort of get ready to attack again. So what you actually have to do is subtract from the main value of 4, the base value. So if I were to actually type in negative 2.4f into this, this value here, attack speed, what this is doing is subtracting 2.4 from the base value of 4. So again, I'll type this up here. 4 is the base minus 2.4. So what we're getting here when we set this value as negative 2.4 is an attack speed of 1.6. And that's actually the vanilla attack speed, I think, of all swords, if I'm correct, or at least all iron swords. So just remember that if you want a cooldown on your sword or your tool, you have to subtract from 4. And I believe if you set it, setting it to 0, like 0.0, that will just, have no cooldown. If you set it to something like 1 or like 5 or something, I don't actually think that'll do anything, but you're free to try that if you'd like. So I'm gonna set a cooldown with negative 2.4, comma, and then last thing we need to set is the properties. So we can just type new item.properties.group, and we're gonna set the group here to our tutorial.tab. This is that custom tab you made, or you can set it to a vanilla tab, whatever you'd like. And I should mention, when you're making these tools, this tool is finished, but if you want to add new things to it, new interesting properties, you could do after this .group method, and you could check out all the other properties you can set. For example, you could set no repair. This would make it so that you cannot repair this item in an anvil, which is super interesting. And there's a few others. You could actually make your tool a food item if that's, for whatever reason, something you wanted. And there's a few others in here. But for now, I'm just going to keep it like this because this is all I need. So we've finished our sword item. And what we need to do is go back to mod item tier and set our repair material to that actual sword item. And we can do that by making a lambda statement with an arrow and a curly brace. And inside of these curly braces, we're actually going to type return ingredients dot from items. And inside of here, we're going to pass in registry handler dot and then ruby sword and then .get. So you might be wondering, and a semicolon, of course. You might be wondering why are we passing in our sword into this value? So you can pass in any of the items that use this this tier, and the reason this kind of makes sense, basically we're getting the ingredient of this this item here, this tool, and that way the game sort of knows what item to use in the anvil to repair, to repair your tools. I know that's a little confusing, but just think of it like, a ruby sword needs another like ruby item to repair. So that's what it's getting here, is that another ruby item. All right, so we're actually done with our mod item tier here. If you wanted to add new tiers, you can see we're using this ruby tier right here, mod item tier.ruby. If you wanted to add new unique tiers, you could just copy this, paste it below, and then just rename it to like something new, like quartz. If you wanted like a quartz tier, and then you could literally just rename you could change all of these values here. Just make sure that instead of a semicolon, you add a comma after the ones above. That way this is included in the actual class. But we're not gonna make a second one, but just know that's how you make a second one. And then if you had like a second tier, when you made a new item, you could do, instead of .ruby, and you can see there's quartz there. You could select quartz instead. But we're gonna keep ruby, but just so you know, that's what you would do. Get rid of this and turn the comma into a semicolon. All right, so we have our sword here. Next thing we need to do is actually create some JSONs. So if we go into our resources, assets, tutorial, models, item, we can see we have our JSONs from the previous tutorials. What you want to do is go to the description of this video, go to the second link, or I believe it might be the third. It'll take you to a paste bin. This is the JSON you need. So copy it, right click copy, and then you want to right click on item, new, file, and again, name this exactly what you have here, ruby_sword.json. Hit enter, add to the repository, and you can just paste this in. And the only thing you need to change is the mod ID to your mod ID. In my case, it's tutorial, and the item name. Again, the item name is just what you've got right here, ruby_sword. You can just copy that and paste it in. All right, so this is pretty much it for the JSON. You can actually see if we open up our ruby.json, it's pretty much exactly the same, except instead of item generated, it's item handheld. And that's because it's a handheld tool. So we're actually done. All we need to do is add the texture and I guess add the name, but that's not super important. So go to your desktop here. And I actually have some tools here, but you want to make a texture for your sword. Name it exactly what you have named here, ruby_sword, and open up your Minecraft modding folder, tutorial mod, source, main, resources, assets, tutorial, textures, items, and inside of here, just drop it into there. And we can close out of here. And you can actually see it in our textures folder, ruby_sword. And we can go to lang as well, en_us.json, and we can just copy this item we have up here. Make sure to add a comma because we are adding a new entry. And instead of item.tutorial.ruby, it would be item.tutorial.ruby_sword. Because again, this name here should match with this one right here, this name we set. And we want to set this name to Ruby Sword. Okay, so file, save all. And I believe if we launch the game now, we should have our sword in the game. So I will see you in a second inside of the game. Okay, so we're inside of the game, and if we go to our creative inventory and go to our custom tab, there is our sword, and it does say Ruby sword. And thankfully we can actually see the attack speed and the attack damage, and it is 6 and 1.6, exactly what we wanted and set. And we can test this out with a spider here. So it should do, there we go, 3 hearts, we can see that right there. So it should take about 4 hits or 3 hits to kill. And you can see here that when we hit our sword, it does have that cooldown. It's taking a second there. And it does have the same cooldown as something like a diamond sword. You can see same length cooldown as our ruby sword here. And I do believe, yeah, you can see here, it's exactly like a diamond sword in like stats, except it is a little less effective. It has 1 less damage. But again, you can see that it is working, so we do have a perfectly working sword that's custom. Alright, so that's pretty much all you need to do to create a custom tool, but I'm going to go through all of the different tool types just so we can see them for example purposes, but just know that it's pretty much the same process. So we can actually copy this whole 2 lines here, and then right below paste it in, and instead of sword item, we're going to make a pickaxe next, so it would be pickaxe item. We can rename Ruby underscore sword to Ruby underscore pickaxe. Same with this name here, instead of underscore sword underscore pickaxe, and instead of sword item, it would also be again a pickaxe item. And this also takes in the same value, so you can actually leave all this the same if you want, or change it up. I want my pickaxe to do much less damage than the sword, so I'm going to set this to 0, and that will cause the pickaxe to have a damage value of 4, because again, we've got that base damage of 3 plus the vanilla damage of 1. So that will give us a damage of 4. And for the attack speed, we're going to set this to negative 2.8 so that it has a higher cooldown. And that's pretty much it. You've got your Ruby pickaxe. We just need to make the JSON. We can copy the Ruby underscore sword JSON and paste it back in and just name it Ruby underscore pickaxe, refactor, add. And instead of Ruby underscore sword, just name it Ruby underscore pickaxe. And we should also add the, what is it called? The PNG, the texture. So go to Minecraft modding, your mod, source, main, resources, assets, mod ID, textures, items. And I'm going to throw all of them in there right now just because I don't want to keep coming back to this folder, but you're just going to throw them all in there. Again, making sure that the names of the PNG files are the exact same as the name of your item. And they should pop up. There we go. They did pop up. So we also want to go to en_us.json. Once again, copy this line, paste it below, change from sword to pickaxe, and change this to pickaxe. There we go. So if we file, save all, this will now actually make a pickaxe in the game. So once again, just to show, if we go to our custom tab, we do have the Ruby pickaxe here. Again, it does show the attack speed and attack damage. And let's just go into game mode survival real quick. This is like a regular pickaxe, so it doesn't do very well against dirt or against wooden objects. And it does have that cooldown we can see where it takes a while to come up. But of course, it is going to work super well on stone objects, things that a pickaxe normally would do very well breaking. So our pickaxe does work, and let's go do the rest of the items. Okay, so hopefully you're sort of seeing that this is pretty much the same process, just repeated. So we're going to do speed round this time. I think we're going to do 3 or 4 objects at once now, just so we can really get through this. So copy this, and let's make a paste below. Instead of pickaxe items, this next one is going to be a shovel. So it's going to be a shovel item. Rename pickaxe to shovel. Rename pickaxe once again to shovel. And then again, shovel item. And the values are going to stay mostly the same. I want the attack damage to be 0.5f. And I want the attack speed this time to just be negative 3.0. And we can keep the rest the same. Then we're going to make another entry. This time, you guessed it, an axe. Axe item. Rename pickaxe to axe. Once again, same thing, rename to axe. And axe item. Now this damage value, I'm going to keep this sort of vanilla we're gonna make this damage value 5 because we do want it to be higher than the sword, at least if we're keeping with vanilla trends, but the cooldown is gonna be much higher with negative 3.1 cooldown. And then I think last one is a hoe. So we can create a hoe item. And again, instead of pickaxe, hoe. Instead of pickaxe here, we put hoe. And then lastly, instead of pickaxe item, hoe item. And a hoe actually is the only tool that has a different constructor. So instead of, there's no attack speed, I believe. It's just, oh, sorry, there is attack speed. There's no damage value. So we can get rid of this damage value here and just have our mod item tier, our attack speed, and the builder, the tab. So for our attack speed, I'm gonna put negative 1.0 because that's what most vanilla hoes are, I believe. So that's pretty much it for all of these items. Now we just need to make all of their JSONs. So once again, you can copy the sword JSON, copy, paste it in, and instead of sword, we're gonna call it, let's do shovel next. And add to repository. Once again, instead of sword, shovel, file, save all. And then we're just gonna keep doing this for every item. So instead of sword, next is the axe. And we can rename sword to axe in here as well. And then one more, instead of sword, we're gonna put hoe. And instead of sword again, put hoe. Okay, so if we close all these files here, close, close, close. We should have now for JSONs a sword, a pickaxe, a shovel, an axe, and a hoe. So every tool type in the game. Now, and we have all of the textures as well. Remember, you put those in earlier. So last thing to do is just go to en_us.json. And once again, we need to make more of these entries. Instead of pickaxe, we want shovel. And rename this to shovel as well. Instead of pickaxe here, we're gonna put axe. An axe again, and then lastly our hoe. There we go, Ruby hoe. All right, so and remember no comma on the last entry here. So that's pretty much it for all tools. I think, yeah, so and if you wanna clean this up, by the way, I'm gonna keep it like this in the GitHub repository so you can see it better, but you can actually move this back up if you'd like to have everything on one line, and then move them all together. Oh, that brought me all the way out. There we go. There we go. So you can organize it like that if you'd like them all together, just so it's easier for you to see all of them. But yeah, let's run the game and check them out. And once again, we're in the game. Let's open up our tab. And there are items. We got the axe, the shovel, the hoe. And let's really quickly just test them out by going to game mode survival. So the hoe does what a hoe does, I guess, in Minecraft. The axe is going to work on wood. There we go. And you can see that it obviously doesn't work on like grass as well. And the shovel is just gonna, do what a shovel does. So all of our tools are working perfectly, and you now have some custom tools in the game. And that is gonna wrap things up for the video today. Thanks guys so much for watching. I hope you learned a lot and make some really cool tools. And once again, I really hope you check out this wiki page down here. I'll leave a link to it. It has so many great vanilla values that you can use, as well as this damage page, which will show you all the different damage values and base damage values, as well as attack speeds that you can sort of mess around with yourself. But other than that, thanks guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.